video, I'm going to show something called as scope slots. It's an interesting concept. The previous videos I covered something called as name slot. So as a rehash, this is how name slots work. We had a profile details component with this, which is the parent, and then we had a profile item, which is a child component. So the profile item component has something called as slot outlet, which is defined using name slot, like element called slot. Then you have an attribute called name, and you specify the slot name. You can also specify a fallback content in the child component, but on the other hand, the parent component need to have the slot content within the v hyphen slot attribute, or you can also specify hash slot name inside the template, because you could pass a template or content from the parent to the child, and that goes in and sits in the name slot. Because you provide a name here, it is called as name slot, because a component can have multiple slots and you can specify different content or templates for each of those slots. So that's why it's called as a name slot. And on the other hand, we also found we also went through a way where we can pass data, just data, using defined props. But on the other hand, slot is also used for passing data from the child component to the parent component, and it is called as a scope slot. A scope slot is mainly useful when you want to pass static data or dynamic data. I'm going to do a simple example as to how use the name scope slot to pass data from child to parent. So I'm going to keep this simple. So in order to pass the scope slot, because this is a name slot already, I'm going to pass data here. So you just say whatever data you want to pass, like for example, suffix equal to, I'm going to pass this as static data. I'm not doing any vbind or anything like that. This is just static data. I'm just going to pass something called as profile as a string. Now this is my child component profile item. I'm going to go to the parent component, and because I have passed it from the heading slot, so I'm going to go to that slot which is heading, and I'm going to say, just for some of the contents, hash heading equal to, or yes, equal to, um, I can say header props. So this is an arbitrary argument, and then I can say, sorry, this should be in double quotes, header props, and then as ever, to pick up the content, just say header props, which is the reference for that particular property, and then you can access the actual property within that, which is suffix. Hopefully I have the naming proper here, the case, because I should use a small case because it's an attribute. So here I am getting that. So let me see the end result. Let me go to, yeah, so that gets picked up automatically, and GitHub profile probably already has it because I have it here. So you can see that in action if you remove this, and then this suffix should go off now because autosave is in action. So I refresh that, yeah, so the suffix is not there. So that's how you pass use the scope slot within a name slot. So this is my name slot, and I pass this parameter. This parameter can be like even header props or properties, and then you can, there's an arbitrary name that you give here, and then you can use the same name um, here as reference, and then you can access the um, attribute name that you gave in the child component. So that's a simple example of how to use named scope slot. Hope this was helpful. Thank you.